Today we will be doing a general review of some of the very important techniques that allow us to use raw eggs when making pastries. One of the most fundamental tools that we will be using in these processes is our cooking thermometer, which will allow us to check the exact temperature of the syrup. 121 degrees is the magic number to remember. We are going to find out how to use yolks, whites and whole eggs. And we'll start with the yolks by making a pâte bombe. To start preparing it, I'll add water to a saucepan. And sugar. It is best to do things in this order so that the sugar absorbs the water in a uniform way. I'll let it heat up gently, and in the meantime, I'll pour the egg yolks into a bowl. Once the syrup has reached a temperature of 115 degrees Celsius, it's time to get to work on the yolks, which don't need to be whipped but only become foamy. Once it has reached 121 degrees, I add the syrup to the yolks. I recommend pouring it in a slow stream. At this stage, you should keep your electric whisk running on a low speed setting, so as to avoid splashing the syrup around on the sides of the bowl, which would result in it solidifying unnecessarily. Now that the syrup has been added, I'll continue whisking the mixture until it has cooled completely. And here it is, our finished pâte bombe. An essential component in so many of our favorite creams, like the mascarpone cream for a tiramisu or the ones used in a semifreddo. The rule to be followed when using a pâte bombe like this in your recipes is very simple. All you have to do is subtract the portion of sugar used in the syrup from the total amount in the recipe. And now let's move on to the version using egg whites, the Italian meringue. The process for this one is almost exactly the same as the last. I'll pour the water and sugar into a saucepan and let it gently heat up until it reaches our usual final temperature of 121 degrees Celsius. Now that it's reached 114 degrees, I'll pour in the egg whites, which are room temperature and do not contain any trace of yolk, into a bowl and begin whisking. At our magic number of 121 degrees, I'll slowly pour in the syrup just as we did for the pâte bombe. And here we are with our finished Italian meringue. Stable and yet extremely fluffy, it is an essential ingredient in recipes for mousses and spoon desserts. Pâte bombe and Italian meringue are without a doubt the most commonly used preparations in pastry making for raw eggs, but if your preference is to use a whole egg, then the process is still identical. Prepare the syrup and bring it to 121 degrees before slowly pouring it over the partially whisked eggs. But if you'd like to avoid using raw eggs in a savory dish, the only way to do it is by heating the whisked eggs in a bain-marie and bringing them to a temperature of 60 to 65 degrees Celsius. I don't recommend exceeding this temperature because they would start to cook. Now that you've learned these little tricks, all that's left to do is put them in practice in your kitchen. Bon appétit!